Sung's collar, it just keeps on glitching. Okay, it stopped. My frames, everything are just like broken right now. Okay, if you've been wondering what the top shadows to invest in are, I recently did a YouTube short where I covered it, but I know that not everybody is locked in with that. So I was like, you know what? Why not also touch the topic in a video? So I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure that thumbs up and subscribe, because 80% of viewers are missing out by not being subscribed. So make sure that's not you and hit that button. Also, if the video is helpful, if you enjoy it, share the video with your friends, all that fun stuff. But above all else, like and comment. The like goal for today's video is 600. Let me know in the comments which shadow is your favorite in the game and why. To answer my own question, it's Egress, but I gotta give a shout out to my boy Kaisel. Ooh, man, he looks so good in the game. Also, shout out to the game original shadows, like Serby. Where's Serby at? He looks awesome. He looks so cool, right? It's so wrong that he's a shadow, but it looks so cool, right? I can't wait to see what's next. All right. So if you guys are wondering, like I was saying, which ones are the best? Well, that's kind of a little bit of a nuanced question. And to keep it short and sweet, it largely depends on what team you are using. So maybe also ask me in the comments, well, this is my team, this is the content I'm taking on, which shadow would be best? And if you didn't understand the answer to that question from this video, I will try to answer you in the comments. But for most content, a safe choice is Egress. And the most important thing to know is when it comes down to choosing your shadow, when you're building your team, you have your characters, whether it's 3 or 4, depending which content you're taking on, and then you have your shadows. You have the 3 shadows. Then the first slot shadow, the one in the very first slot, has their shadow authority triggered, which is just a leader skill passive effect. The other 2 do not have theirs triggered. That's very important, right? So you want to have your character in that leader skill slot for your shadows be a shadow that helps synergize with the team you're using, and that could be various different things, right? So do you have a team that's centered around spamming skills like a light element Chahayin does, or like a Amamiya Mirai does? Because you may very well be well off using Big Rock as your leader for a team like that. Do you have a team that excels with defense capabilities and scale their damage based on their defensive stats specifically? Well, in that case, you would want Tank. He would be a really good leader because that does help overall increase their damage. Think the light team with Thomas and Gogun He, and that would be one of the best ways you can do that. A team that scales based off attack, well, Blades, or probably anyway Beru, would be your guy for a team like that. A team that is predicated on their defense penetration specifically, like Yu Su-hyun, whenever you're using her in the fire team, she's still extremely strong. Then Bestie is awesome for a team like that. Team that scales off of HP specifically, if they all are doing it, then Iron would be a good consideration. A team that uses a core attack like Alicia would be a consideration here. And even if you're using Sung with like his fire team, Tusk could be okay for that too. I'd argue you'd probably have better choices, but you know, to each their own. But when it comes down to like Kaisel and Serby, they're kind of weird because their bonuses are just too low to be worthwhile, in my opinion. Now, Kaisel, I'll give a little bit more credit to. I actually think Kaisel can be good with like Charlotte. Is that it? Kanai, Tawata, or Kanai, and Charlotte would be the 2 mainly. Maybe Thomas, but a character that can get their ultimate off at will or does a lot of ultimate attacks or something like that would be a character I'd consider mostly. And then with Serby, flat out, it's just too low. Crit hit damage needs to be like 80%, or you know what I'm saying? It needs to be a double-digit number, and I'm not talking about 10 to 20. It needs to be a 25 might be okay, but 8% is just too low, is the point. Now, that's all completely predicated on the Shadow Authority specifically. And if you were catching my drift, I threw out a bunch of different scenarios for you. And to bring it full circle back to Egress, and the reason why he is one that's good is because he's universal, right? Some of them are universal, and Egress is probably the most universal one in the entire game because he just increases critical hit rate. It's not a low number of crit hit damage. Crit hit rate is the likelihood of getting that, and 8% is actually a pretty big number given how hard it is for a lot of characters to get crits anyway. But aside from that, Egress is extremely strong individually. Now we're going to kind of extend out of the leader skill and talk more about the individual characters. So Egress has bleeds. He's got a paralysis if you have his armament, which is the weapon unlocked. Egress himself does a good bit of damage because of the bleeds as well. he's got an attack increase there too. If you have the armament also, he increases your Shadow's critical hit rate and damage. As you enhance the armament, of course, his armament passive will get stronger, allowing for your Shadows to do more and more critical hits and damage as well. So Egress in and of himself is a nice one to mostly put on any team, and he is at the tippy top of the tier list. And that's not to say there aren't Shadows that are equivalent, but if you're like ranking it out and if I were making a tier list, Egress is S tier. Other S tier Shadows are as follows. Beru. So Beru is one that I use quite a lot as the leader of a Sung Jinwoo based team. Sung is interesting because you could make an argument for like at least half of these Shadows being good for a lead for Sung, right? Like, or maybe a third of them, I'd say, but a good number of them can be good for Sung teams because Sung has just so many options and flexibility with the way that he can be designed. But I like Beru a lot because, again, 5% attack, crit hit damage is there too. So shout out to Serbi, a little bit lower, but you get attack instead as well, so makes up for it by a lot. He also gives the Shadows healing, and their defense penetration goes up. He also has punishment. He stole this from Min, of course, along with the healing as well. But the punishment is a debuff that makes the enemy take 5% more damage, and he applies punishment, I think, on 2 skills. Yeah, there's another one there. Gluttony recovery, effect on the entire team. 10% of the target's HP is restored. So overall, a good utility Shadow that does decent damage and has, again, the debuff to really help him plug into your team. So that's where, speaking of debuffs, the Shadows get extended value, because if they're going to be debuffing the opposition, then they are prime candidates for the second and third slots on your team. The leader skill is what determines the first slot. The second two is determined based on their ability to debuff the opponent. So Beru is an S tier character because he is a good debuffer, and in my opinion, he's good as a leader as well for attack based teams, but he is a great debuffer, and in my opinion, he's one of those characters on that same tier. Serbi, I talked crap about his leader skill, but Combustion, he does it on like 3 or 4 attacks. Actually, he's got one here with the armament, he's got another one here. Combustion is up here too. Another one, 4 attacks. Deals damage every 50 seconds, equal to 50%, excuse me, of the user's attack every 3 seconds. Increases damage taken by 5, and it's a duration infinite. So yeah, Combustion is really strong. So Combustion is an extremely strong, like, damage over time / debuffing skill. And also with his armament, when Serbi hits a target that already has Combustion applied, his skill damage goes up. So that's really strong on Serbi. So I think Serbi is another S tier Shadow because of the combustions. Combustion is extremely easy for him to trigger among all of these skills, and as a result is extremely valuable as a debuff skill. Blades I don't really hold all too highly because he doesn't really do much utility wise. He's just boosting attack. He may be the hardest hitting Shadow individually. That's probably Kaisel. Okay, top 3 hardest hitting Shadow individually. His armament skill is solid for a Shadow team, increasing attack and defense penetration. And he's got his stun here. Okay, I'll give him a little bit of credit. He has a stun there on the armament, but not one I would invest in. Big Rock, losing a little bit of viability because of the lack of utility. He does literally nothing except hit semi-hard. Like, no bleeds, no stuns, nothing. Anywhere, at all. All he is a passive, quite literally. And his other passive is solid too. It's the Bloodlust Blessing for Sung built into a passive. It's actually pretty good. So he's got to get hit, but like, this is really good, I think. And it gets weaker and stronger at the same time as it's enhanced. I always thought that was pretty interesting. One's going up and the other one's going down. So but the defense decrease is extremely valuable. So when he's hit, he's decreasing the opponent's defense by 30% for 5 seconds. That's extremely strong. That's extremely strong. So, and again, the skill damage, very strong. This is just for the basic skills, not the ultimate skill, not your basic attack, the basic skills. But I think I'd put him in A tier just because of that. Blades, I think, is below that as well. I'm not going to really list Blades, but he's below that. Kaisel has the highest damage modifiers. So there's that. Speed increase is very useful too for Kaisel. He has an attack increase right here and paralyze. And again, 1100% here. Like, he just hits hard. Shadow's critical hit damage goes up and their damage dealt to bosses also goes up. That's actually underratedly strong as an armament skill. Like, I would consider boosting this just to get that second passive up. Like, the first part's good, but them doing extra damage to bosses is really strong, and kind of replaces the need for another debuff. And again, we don't really care much about this, but I think it has some use. So Kaisel, I think, is A tier. He's very valuable as a plug into the team. Again, doesn't really have like those debuffing properties, which is what you want a lot of the time, but the extra damage to the bosses is very powerful. And then again, overall himself having a stun and just hitting the hardest out of all these guys with the modifiers. I mean, his basic skills start at 657. Like, that's extremely strong. And for reference, like, Blades is starting at 150. like it's like 130. I'd assume there's an attack speed variant of it that's different, but he has a speed increase too. So, like, you know, he's just really strong. So Bestie, I think, is S tier because of the defense penetration passive. I also really think she's S tier because she increases the Shadow's basic skill damage here. So Bestie paired with Kaisel, where we're just raving about his damage, and will increase his attack and his basic skill damage. She also increases the defense penetration. She has a freeze in here, but she has a buff in here to increase the user's defense penetration by 10% for the entire team for 20 seconds. That's extremely strong. That's extremely strong. So to me, I think she's invaluable, as in she's really strong. So she's at least A+. Maybe I could use her a little bit more, test her out a little more, but I think she's at least A+. Another A tier Shadow, Iron, not really specifically because of much he's doing. The best thing he's doing is the defense decrease, just to keep it short and sweet. He has some other fun stuff in here, but the best thing he does is the defense decrease. And the reason why is because it's hard for non-Sung Jinwoo Shadows to get a defense decrease placed on the opponent. Defense decrease also combined with like defense penetration, all that stuff. Like, they're just going to hit obscenely hard. But he does have some fun stuff that help your Shadows. The Shadow's damage taken within the area decreases. The skill damage of Shadows within the area also increases. The problem with that type of stuff, Shadow's shield acquisition, the problem with that type of stuff is that Shadows just don't have a long enough lifespan, period. Like, even if they don't get hit, they fizzle out in 20 seconds. Like, they don't last long enough. So that's the problem with that. I think if they were to buff that aspect of Shadows, I think he would get increased value. But another A tier Shadow, A+ tier Shadow, because he does do the defense decreases, and again, those are very valuable overall. Next up will be Tusk, probably B tier. So Tusk has some attack increases, which are cool. Enemies with 50% or less take 8% more damage from when they're hit by Shadows. This is a good armament effect, actually, when paired, especially like with like Kaisel has an extremely strong armament effect, and it can pair pretty well with multiple other skills. But again, you still want to have a primary Shadow that has the good Shadow authority, right? He has a burn effect there. My least favorite thing about this guy is he just is kind of slow with his skills. He's just kind of slow, but he doesn't really do much else outside of those two things. He has an attack increase there for Shadows, which is good as well. But the core attack focus, I think that this lost a little bit of value. I can see him going up to A or A+ if Alicia becomes better. I'd expect for Alicia to get a buff. In fact, she has a banner up right now. The water meta is finally returning for the first time in 10 months, so maybe that adds value to him. But for now, I don't really see it. And then for you, last but not least, I think he's another A tier Shadow, simply because of the Shadow authority. He's got some more Shadow skills here that are increasing damage. Shadow's damage dealt to normal monsters increases, which is kind of whatever, I guess. The defense penetration is solid. He's got a stun in here, which used to be really strong. Stuns are kind of whatever also, unless they're for like 2 seconds, which most of them are 1 second. I think freeze from Bestie was for 2 seconds, right? Yeah, that extra second does matter, but still, the stun is cool. Defense increase there for your Shadows, kind of like similar to the shield thing I was talking about with Iron, where it kind of doesn't matter a ton. But he's definitely showing his age here. Now, I don't recommend doing this, not because I don't think it's good, but because we're going to get a new Shadow. I'm going to do it just to show you my faith in my boy here. I told you he was one of my favorites. I'm doing that right now just to show my faith in my boy. Because I thought that his armament was really strong. So above all else, though, I think Igris, Beru, Serbi, is the primary team most people should be using. You pair those 3 up and you're really good to go with pretty much any content. You can sub out Egress, keep Beru and Serbi, or Iron, some combination of Beru, Serbi, Iron, and maybe Bestie. Some combination of those 4 characters should be your 2 backline characters, but your Shadow Authority needs to be considered independently based on what you're taking on. So all right guys, if this video was helpful, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe, and if you haven't already, make sure you do support, because I can give you guys awesome codes that do give out all these fun stuff like 30 traces of shadows. I just had those did expire, but we'll have a new set of codes, essence stones, etc. To support, all you have to do is go to the link in the description, click these 3 lines in the top corner, click my page, and on that it'll take you to the supporter tab afterwards, and you will see the codes I've sent you. Give me about a day or 2 and I will send them manually. I do have to do it manually, but I promise you, as long as you do it within the period before they expire, I will send the codes out to you, even if it takes me a couple of days. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't seen my video covering how to get gold in solo leveling Arise, make sure you check it out now. I'll see you later.